Why French designers leave more empty space in beautiful homes. Walk into a beautiful French apartment, especially one tucked into an old Parisian building, and you may notice something surprising. There is often less furniture than you expected, fewer decorations, more open floor around a chair, more breathing room beside a small table, and sometimes an almost empty corner that seems to serve no obvious purpose. In a compact apartment, this can feel almost counterintuitive. But French designers understand something important. Beauty does not always come from adding more. Sometimes it comes from knowing exactly what to leave out. Imagine a small Paris studio on the fourth floor of an aging Haussmann building. The apartment is charming but undeniably cramped. There is one main living area, a narrow kitchen, a modest bedroom corner, and tall French windows opening toward a quiet street. At first glance, you might think the room needs more storage, more furniture, and more decoration. Yet the designer makes an unexpected choice. Instead of filling every available centimeter, she deliberately leaves certain areas empty. For many homeowners, an empty area can feel like an unfinished project. We immediately imagine a console table, a plant, a cabinet, or perhaps another chair. French designers often see it differently. Empty space can be functional even when nothing occupies it. It gives the eye somewhere to rest, allows furniture to be appreciated individually, and makes movement through the room feel easier. In a small home, that visual breathing room can be just as valuable as another piece of furniture. A compact apartment does not necessarily have to look crowded. That distinction is one of the most useful lessons from French interiors. A room becomes visually cramped when too many objects compete for attention. The actual dimensions may be small, but the eye experiences the space as even smaller because there is no visual pause. By leaving strategic gaps between furniture and walls, French designers create the impression that the apartment has more room than it actually does. Consider the corner of our little Paris studio. There is a beautiful vintage armchair positioned near the window. It could easily be joined by another chair, a side cabinet, a floor lamp, and several decorative objects. Instead, the designer leaves the chair almost alone. The surrounding emptiness makes it feel important. The worn fabric, elegant silhouette, and curved wooden legs suddenly become noticeable. This is a quiet form of design storytelling. The room tells you which object deserves your attention. French interiors often feel sophisticated because they do not ask every object to become the star. A designer might choose an antique mirror, an architectural fireplace, a vintage sofa, or an elegant light fixture as the focal point. Everything else supports that decision. In a tiny apartment, this becomes especially powerful. When only a few elements demand attention, the room feels calmer and more intentional. The designer is not decorating every corner. She is directing your eyes through the space. Older Paris apartments often come with beautiful architectural details. Ceiling moldings, tall windows, parquet floors, carved fireplaces, and decorative doors. Covering these features with furniture can unintentionally hide the very qualities that make the apartment special. French designers frequently allow architecture to remain visible. A wall does not always need artwork. A fireplace does not always need to be surrounded by accessories. Sometimes, the most elegant decoration is simply allowing the original architecture to remain part of the story. There is something psychologically comforting about an uncluttered corner. Imagine sitting in that small studio after dinner, with a warm lamp glowing beside the sofa and the city outside beginning to darken. One corner of the room remains completely open. Nothing is demanding your attention. That small visual pause can make the entire apartment feel calmer. This is why empty space is not merely an aesthetic trick. It can influence how relaxed a room feels and how easily we settle into it. There is also a practical reason for leaving space. People need somewhere to move. In a compact home, furniture positioned too closely together can make ordinary activities surprisingly frustrating. Opening a cabinet, pulling out a chair, walking toward the window, or carrying a cup of coffee becomes an obstacle course. French designers tend to consider circulation as part of the composition. They ask not only, "Does this piece look beautiful here?" but also, "Can someone comfortably live around it?" Think about a page in a beautifully designed book. If every inch were covered with words, reading would become tiring. Margins make the page easier to understand. Interiors work in a similar way. Empty space acts like a margin around furniture and architectural details. It separates one visual idea from another. In a tiny apartment, these margins can be particularly valuable because the room has fewer physical boundaries. The designer creates separation visually instead of relying entirely on walls. One reason homes become crowded is that we often believe our possessions deserve permanent display. Family treasures, books, souvenirs, photographs, decorative objects, and inherited pieces can all have meaning. But meaningful does not necessarily mean everything must be visible at once. French interiors often suggest a more edited approach. Keep the objects that genuinely contribute to the room, rotate others occasionally, and allow some surfaces to remain almost empty. This makes the things you choose to display feel more personal. This is where the philosophy becomes especially interesting. Leaving empty space does not mean living without beautiful things. Quite the opposite. It often means choosing fewer things and being more selective about their quality. Instead of 5 inexpensive decorations competing on a shelf, there might be one ceramic piece with an interesting shape. Instead of several small lamps, one beautifully positioned brass wall light might provide both function and atmosphere. The room feels richer because every object has room to be appreciated. In a large house, excess can sometimes disappear into the architecture. In a tiny apartment, it cannot. Every chair, table, lamp, and basket occupies a significant percentage of the visual field. That is why restraint becomes an important design skill. French designers often understand that compact spaces need stronger editing, not more decoration. The smaller the room, the more carefully each piece should earn its place. This does not make the home less personal. It makes the personality easier to see. Here is another fascinating effect. A vintage piece can sometimes look heavy when surrounded by other vintage pieces. But place an antique wooden cabinet against a quiet wall, with generous space around it, and suddenly it feels remarkably contemporary. The same happens with an old velvet chair or a traditional French mirror. Empty space gives historical objects visual freshness. Instead of looking like a collection from another era, they become individual design statements within a modern way of living. Think of interior design less like shopping and more like writing. Every object is a sentence. Every room has a rhythm. If every sentence is long and complicated, the story becomes exhausting. Empty space acts like punctuation. It creates pauses. It gives one idea time to register before another arrives. This is perhaps one of the most useful ways to understand French interiors. The designer is not simply filling a room. She is editing a visual story until only the most meaningful elements remain. Lighting becomes more beautiful when there is room for shadows. A small brass wall lamp shining onto an empty section of plaster can create a surprisingly sophisticated atmosphere. If the wall were covered with artwork, shelves, and decorations, that subtle glow might disappear into the background. French designers often allow light to become part of the decoration. In the evening, an empty wall can catch warm illumination and gentle shadows, creating atmosphere without requiring another decorative object. There is a reason luxury interiors often appear calm. They are not necessarily filled with expensive furniture. Instead, they usually provide enough visual space for important elements to stand apart. This principle works beautifully in a modest Paris studio. You do not need a huge budget to create it. Remove unnecessary pieces, simplify crowded surfaces, reposition furniture, and allow architectural features to show. Suddenly, the same room may feel more refined without purchasing anything new. And this is where I think French design is often misunderstood. Leaving empty space does not mean creating a cold, minimalist home. A Parisian apartment can still have velvet, old books, framed art, patterned textiles, antique furniture, flowers, brass details, and warm colors. The difference is that these elements are given room to breathe. The goal is not to own less simply for the sake of owning less. The goal is to create enough visual silence for character and warmth to remain visible. Back in our little apartment, imagine the designer making her final adjustments. She removes one unnecessary chair. A crowded shelf loses several decorative pieces. The coffee table becomes simpler. A narrow pathway near the window opens up. Suddenly, the apartment has not become physically larger at all. The walls have not moved. The ceiling has not changed. Yet the entire room feels different. Feels easier to walk through, easier to look at, and perhaps even easier to live in. There is something deeply human about knowing when enough is enough. We live in a culture that constantly encourages us to add something. Another decoration, another storage solution, another trend, another purchase. French design offers a quieter alternative. Before asking what your room needs next, ask what it might be able to live without. That single question can completely change how you approach a small home. Sometimes the most elegant improvement is not an addition, but a subtraction. Ultimately, empty space is not really about furniture. It is about people. A home should leave enough room for everyday life to happen naturally. There should be space to sit with a cup of tea, open a book, welcome a friend, walk toward the window, or simply do nothing for a few minutes. In a beautiful French apartment, the room is not trying to impress you every second. It is quietly supporting your life. And perhaps that is the real definition of elegance. So why do French designers leave more empty space in beautiful homes? Because they understand that elegance needs contrast. Furniture needs breathing room. Architecture needs visibility. Light needs surfaces to fall upon. And people need space to live comfortably. In our tiny Paris studio, nothing became physically larger. Yet the apartment became calmer, more graceful, and more intentional simply because we stopped trying to fill every corner. Perhaps that is the lesson worth taking home. A beautiful room is not defined by how much it contains, but by how thoughtfully it allows each element and the people who live there to breathe.